And first of all, let's just touch on the events of last night over in the USA in Vegas. We had Saul Canelo Alvarez pretty much doing what he pleased, more or less, against Jermell Charlo. I think we was all expecting a bit of a closer fight, more of a competitive fight. Josh, give us your thoughts on on the result last night.
Yeah, I'm in that same neighborhood. Thought it would be a bit more competitive. Of course, from a size perspective, that was always going to be a question as it relates to how Jamel would handle the punches, which I guess when you add things up, he handled them pretty decently. He was dropped in the eighth round, I believe, or somewhere around there. But I think that Canelo showed that his power is indeed real as far as when he's able to dig in with those body shots. Certainly puts certain fighters in retreat. And the story of the fight was that Jermell Charlo was pretty much on the back foot the entire time while Canelo marched forward. Now, Canelo wasn't able to get him out of there. So some may question, hey, whether he still has that type of power or that type of force to stop opponents in a similar capacity to what he was previously doing. But all in all, I think it was a very solid performance from him, a dominant performance. I gave Charlo one round, which I think was consensus with the broadcast as well as others that I've seen commenting on it. I believe that was the fifth round, but outside of that, it was never in question for Canelo. And I don't recall Canelo really being hit with anything that was significant. And he was dishing out pretty much all of the punishment. Now, I do think that Jermell Charlo, he should move back to 154, and that's probably where he's better suited for the time being. Then he'll have to gradually work his way back up. But as of right now, 154 is pretty much where he belongs. And I know in the aftermath of the contest, he said he wanted to fight Terrence Crawford. I would much rather prefer a Tim Zoo fight. I think that's one that brings out the best of both of those guys. Not that the Crawford fight wouldn't. It's just a matter of Tim Zoo. He looks like he will make it a very interesting fight at 154. And we know Crawford has, I guess you can say, unfinished business with Spence. As it relates to Canelo, David Benavidez, nothing else. David Benavidez. And Canelo said that he's down and willing to fight anyone. So we want to see David Benavidez because I think that's going to give him the toughest challenge he can have there at 168 pounds. And I think Benavidez is a live dog, especially thinking about where his strong suits are, which tend to be in the later rounds as he continues to press fighters and eventually break them down for the most part. So it's a good fight. I don't know who wins exactly. I have to mull on it a good bit. I'd be leaning Canelo for sure in terms of just general thought and wisdom behind it. But I don't know because Benavidez, he's bigger. You could argue stronger in some sense. Maybe not as far as that one punch pop, but through attrition, he breaks guys down in dramatic fashion. So we'll see how it goes, though. But those are my thoughts surrounding such.
All right, Alex, give us your thoughts on the performance last night.
So we asked for this fight, what, when they both were at 54, what, 7 years ago, 2016, maybe around that time. 7 years ago. We got it in 2023. Two weight classes divide them. And when you saw that fight, is that a fight that we expected? Absolutely not. Was that the fight that we wanted? No. And this was when it was announced. I didn't want this fight. When it was getting closer and closer, I started I started to be more open to it. But I think we just naturally do that because it was being force fed to us, right? It just was over and over again. I mean, the fight was happening, you hear all the talking, and then they get in the ring and Charlo, that was his performance. That was his. This was the fight he's been waiting for. This was the reason why he was calling Canelo out after all these years. That was it. Like I wasted my time, money. my energy into a performance like that. And let's not get it wrong. I'm not gonna act like Canelo did this wonderful job either. He was doing single shots. He was just following him around. And keep it real, he treated it like a sparring session. He literally stood up between each round. I think that fight is a disgrace. I'm disgusted. And honestly, if Charlo doesn't go back down and fight a Tim Tszyu or Terrence Crawford, I don't want to hear. I don't care to see him. I'm not going to pay to see him again. If Canelo doesn't fight, just like Josh said, David Benavidez, or okay, I'll be nice. David Benavidez Andre winner, I'm not going to pay. I don't want to waste any more of my dollars or time into watching shit shows. I'm sorry. That was a shit show. That was I don't know, man. To me, I felt like it was a little bit of a black eye for boxing because I'm at a party. There's people there, and they're sleeping. They fall asleep during the fight because of how bad it was. Yeah, Canelo was winning, but did he ever turn on? Did he ever turn the gas on? Did he ever go into third, fourth, fifth gear? No, he was okay with how the fight was going. Obviously, Charlo was okay with the fight, how it was going for him. He never really tried anything, right? I gave him one round. I felt kind of bad. I was like, oh, he landed. Okay, give him that round. You know, you know what I mean. I mean, honestly, when we come to this level of boxing, it's about seeing the best versus the best, right? We want to see competitive fights, or we want to see an excellent performance. Are we always going to get that? No. But this was a fight that no one asked for, and it didn't deliver anything. It didn't give us an extravagant, dominant performance like Terrence Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence, and we didn't get a classic like Canelo versus Triple G, 1 and 2. So yeah, I'm very unhappy, very dissatisfied, and yeah, man, very upset that time and money was wasted into that fight.
Okay, an unhappy customer. Well, I guess boxing fans for the most part are unhappy customers, aren't they? Let's face it, with the fights that we don't get, or just everything that goes around getting the fight in the ring in the first place. And it's a shame. Like you said, we wasn't exactly enthralled by this fight, but it was forced on us. It was given the big build up, the undisputed versus undisputed and all of that fanfare, which was to try and big up a fight. And I kind of agree with you there, Alex, where Canelo seemed to almost coast, didn't he? He got the knockdown eventually in whichever round it was. I think it was round 7. And that got me a little bit excited, partly because I'd put a bet on him to win a late stoppage from rounds 9 to 12. So I was thinking, yeah, this is good. He's wearing Charlo down. Maybe he'll last a few more rounds, and then that's it. He should get the job done. And he just seemed to not find that nice combination again for the rest of the fight. He was just happy to coast and make sure he won the rounds. But yeah, I guess it was pretty disappointing. Beforehand, I thought that maybe Jermell Charlo was possibly slippery enough, cagey enough to cause Canelo problems, kind of in the same vein of Billy Joe Saunders was supposed to have been able to do. But it did an even worse job than Saunders did, which wasn't very good either.
Billy, what do you mean? I disagree, Billy. I felt Billy Joe was in that fight. I felt that, especially towards the middle rounds, he was competitive. It felt like he got into a groove. It just his face got broke. He took the chances. Charlo did not. And listen, this undisputed bullshit. I'm sorry, but those things have just turned to props. They are props. Just because you're undisputed doesn't make you one of the best fighters in the world. I'm sorry, because you're unified champion, because you have a belt. Gervonta Tank Davis has a fucking regular belt, and most people see him as the best fighter. Why? Because when he gets in that ring, he takes his time and he gets you the fuck out of there. Canelo's not doing that anymore, and he has 5 belts. Charlo, he had a draw for undisputed. Not Castaño's a very good fighter. I'm not going to say he's not, but even if you watch that second fight, which was a great fight, it wasn't like he was flawless in there. He got the knockout absolutely, but he wasn't flawless. Against Rosario, it wasn't a flawless performance, but he got the dude done. See, a guy like Tank Davis, who doesn't really care for the belts, I'm sure he just keeps the belt to make sure his pay is a certain way, and because they always have these things in these contracts when it comes to holding a major belt or whatever. you know. But at the pace he fights, he's getting dudes out of there. And the Ryan Garcia fight was desired, whether you think it was close on
Mm-hmm.
skills or not. It was desired. How do we know? Because we saw it for what 1-2 years. It was always talked about. It was something that brought the masses together, and you were excited watching that fight, regardless that they didn't throw many punches and it wasn't the most sizzling fight. Back and forth action. You were on, the end of your chair, wondering each shot, is that the one to hurt him? Is that the one to change the fight? Is that the one to end the fight? There was nothing like that during this fight, and that's why I'm disgusted. And yeah, it's just not fair to boxing. People. I've been told that it's me. I'm the problem right now with boxing. I'm the one stopping the growth. No, to
Mm-hmm.
to 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 have a $20 million gate, charging that amount to go to an event where people only come for the main event. I mean, look at that
Yeah.
arena. It was empty until
Empty.
maybe somewhere in the co-main event. But for that, for the, like I said, the amount of money, the expenses it takes to hold these parties, to go to Vegas, to maintain yourself, to the people pulling in extra work overtime to go ahead into these events, and for that to be the fight that people are putting all their energy and resources in, sham.
All right.
I can co-sign that. I just want to say I can certainly co-sign that, especially when you want to charge $85 for the pay-per-view in itself. You do expect something to be different than those fights that are not on pay-per-view, that are maybe on some of the premium networks, or what you could consider the national free networks in some sense. So to charge people those pay-per-view prices, which have continued to rise, and we're continuing to see even more and more of them, I think that is certainly something that is a stain in the sport of boxing. And especially when you have streaming platforms like the Zone, who pretty much sold themselves on them being the end of major fights on pay-per-view.
Let's not get started on that one.